So Bob, why did you decide to leave Oracle and join IronCore?
Well, the leave Oracle part was just that I was ready to go somewhere different. It was a big company, and the culture was of a big company was not something that was maybe my favorite thing. So I was thinking about leaving, and then I talked to Patrick, and he had some ideas, and they were pretty cool ideas. So I would have probably left, but the possibility of working on some really technically interesting projects that, I'm kind of a gearhead, so the technical appeal was definitely there, and the opportunity to work on something that was technically difficult and, in my opinion, extremely valuable to really everyone was like a combination that made it really simple to make that decision.
Yeah, for me, it was less about leaving Oracle. I mean, Oracle, I think any company has its pluses and minuses, and Oracle had pluses and minuses. For me, I was anxious to do something that was meaningful, and was very interested in solving the hard problems that seems like everyone was trying to solve over and over again, and maybe getting halfway too. And so things like data management, access control, data security, they're things that belong at the heart of every application, but that seem to be largely missing or afterthoughts or done in ways that are really constraining, or, and we used to get a lot of requests from customers to ask us, how many people in Oracle can view our data, or things like that. And, we're not going to give out those numbers if we can even know it exactly at any point in time. We have audit trails, it had all the things, but at the end of the day, there were bypasses. A database administrator, there are ones that could go kind of behind our gateways so customer support couldn't go look at someone's data without leaving a whole big trail and getting permission and stuff, but other folks potentially could, and so those folks had a lot of trust, and that's okay. These systems come with trust. But when we started thinking about how do you build these systems, it became clear to me that it was the most interesting thing was how you could make guarantees, and how you could build systems that were, give developers building blocks for building systems that are well thought out, and do these things by default and by design, so that that's not a concern that they have to have. They can worry about, all the stuff that comes into building an application and whatever its requirements and use cases are. So that was, that whole thought process was a big part of my desire to start IronCore, to try and make things a little bit better to help people.
Yeah, I think that the fact that we came from the application development side gave us a lot of insights about things that had been really not fun for us as developers, and places where we saw over and over again opportunities for mistakes. And
right.
There are always opportunities for mistakes, obviously, when you're writing software, but the last place you want one of those mistakes to happen is in your security layer. And
right.
So just the idea of building something that would let application developers focus on their applications, not on plumbing. Because, a lot of encryption stuff in particular, I think there's way too much work that you have to do on the plumbing. And when you're working on plumbing, it turns out a lot of times you really need to be a plumber if you're not going to have a disaster. And a lot of application developers are not encryption plumbers. And so I think that opportunity to maybe take that load off the application developer, take the risk off their organization, was, a really appealing thing to be able to solve that problem, and at the same time just solve the problem of the data, protecting the data that those applications were managing. So.
Yeah, I mean, we could, first of all, we had ideal backgrounds for this. I spent a number of years in security and building cryptography previous to Oracle, and you were also a cryptography expert as well as a database and data expert and architect as well. And so for us to take this on made a lot of sense. We had a ton of expertise, but we were, there's a big difference when a bug is like, oh, that button is half off the screen, that's really annoying. It's annoying to users or whatever. But when things go to hell on access control or security or anything like that, it's a whole nother level of meetings and worries and people to explain things to and everything else, right? So really the critical, I feel like in application development, the critical parts of applications have been underfunded over the years and not underappreciated, but for all that we have all these great libraries and tooling and everything else, so much of it happens at almost the middle layer and not the bottommost. It's maybe the data storage, maybe the very bottommost, or the middle layers, or even the top layer for the GUI kind of stuff. And there's this huge missing gap that I feel like right around the storage.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of copacetic timing things too, right? At the time when we were thinking about this, I don't remember how many breach notifications I'd received, but a few. Yeah. And they were picking up in number. It's like, wow, this really feels bad. So it was extra motivation. It's a good motivation to want to help other people, but when you're helping yourself too, it turns out that's a big boost to really keep you focused.
Yeah, me too. So right around when we decided to go do this, I had recently. I feel like I have really good security practices myself, right? My computer is crazy locked down. You can't install a startup item or make a connection to a new website without an alert popping up, but for all I do to protect my data and the encryption and stuff I do, I can't help but have a health insurer and a bank and I in 1 year I had Blue Shield notify me that my data had been stolen through them, and I hadn't been with Blue Shield for 5 years at that point.
Yeah,
and I had my bank, which I won't mention, but they notified me my data was stolen, and I was some kind of insider or something. Someone downloaded everything and then put it on the dark web or something, and but I was getting kind of pissed that I'm not in control of my data anymore. I mean, I have some control over some part of it, but it's information about me is everywhere, and until those systems are fixed and better, we're all screwed. I mean, we there's no way that any of us, short of like disconnecting from life and society, there's no way to address that problem except to force better practices and create better tools so people can do the right thing.
Right. Yeah, you have to lower the barrier because even companies that really want to do the right thing, they're companies, they're resource constrained almost always, and you need to lower the expense and the cognitive bar for developers, because developers are cheap and you want the best aren't cheap. You want the best developers to be focused on the things you're trying to do, not the things that you need a rocket surgeon to do. So
yeah, it's like I feel like sometimes people have a hard time investing in security because in one mindset, you invest in security so that your business doesn't move backwards. But where you want to invest is the thing that moves your company forward, right? And that can be a real disincentive to doing what you should do to build a good application, and what really the tooling should do for you in a perfect world, right? And so that you don't have to think as much about that stuff. Well, this has been a great journey with you, Bob. So, thanks for you coming on it with me.
Yeah, it's been a blast. I've learned more things than I ever expected, even though I knew I was going to learn more things than I was thinking about. It's been quite an adventure. So,
yeah, thanks.
Thank you.